What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Now, last video, if I remember correctly, we were working on our Facebook Marketplace Banco Dingo Silver Bullet, where I upgraded by porting the head, putting on a much larger carburetor to help cure our air fuel issue, and then gave it to Seth to take out on the street and decided to send the rod through the top of the block. So I will be getting another engine for that, and we will be getting right back on that thing. Of course, we'll do some upgrades, make sure it gets a billet rod, all the other neat stuff to help support everything I did to that head. And well, the video before that one, I upgraded our transmission here by getting rid of that fabric style filter, modifying the pickup to accept a factory style filter, taking it out on the street, which I did not show. It did perform much better. Felt like it had a whole lot of pressure, shifts weren't flaring. But then shortly after getting on it, having an issue. Where what I believe happened at that point was it blew the gasket out from between the case and the pump. So you can see here, I have obviously taken the transmission out, and well, that is exactly what happened. Here is our gasket, and as you can see there, where it blew it out. And if I can get in real close to show you, you can see there isn't a whole lot of room for that gasket to seal up against. As a matter of fact, that is a tapered edge going down into the case. And you can see between the gasket and there is not a whole lot of room for it to seal. So I originally, before pulling this thing apart, ordered another gasket. Here it is, our replacement gasket. Now this is a factory style replacement, right? Stock thickness or stock equivalent replacement gasket. And we could just go ahead, take this, clean that up, put this in its place, bolt it back together, and it'll probably work for the time being. But as much fun as it is pulling this transmission out of this car every time, I went ahead and purchased another gasket, which is, just by looking at it, appears to be the same as the one I just showed you. Let's see here. So I got two gaskets here, but actually, if I can catch this on camera, you can see the difference in thickness between the factory style and this gasket here. Now it is slightly thicker, and hopefully the camera picks it up, but you can see the difference, how the thicker gasket is kind of glossy. That is because it has a coating on it to help it stay in place. It's supposed to help it stick to the case and the pump to help to prevent it from blowing out again from seeing higher pressures. And I got that from Dynamic Transmissions, I believe. Dynamic Racing Transmissions. So I will leave a link to this gasket for you guys out there that have somewhat of the similar issue, or looking for a gasket to help cure that problem for your street car. So now, I'm not sponsored by anybody, by any of these guys whatsoever. I just know that things like this can help a lot of you out. And if it works for me, then it'll work for you as well. And that's what this is all about. So let me show you the pump. So here is our pump, and by this edge right here, this is what sits inside the taper of that case. And it actually, gasket only seals right here on this edge, as you can see. So not a whole lot of sealing surface. So I'll make sure to clean all of this up and position that gasket in a way to get the most sealing surface to help prevent it blowing out again. So I'm gonna get you guys set up on the little tripod, start cleaning that front pump, get this gasket installed in the case, get everything buttoned back up. And oh, before I do that though, for some of you guys, now I didn't film me pulling this transmission out of the car. I have done that quite a few times on previous videos. But to remove that pump from the case, it is just these bolts Now you'll either have the bolts holding the bell housing on with the front pump, and I believe there's other styles where the front pump and bell housing, which actually it's this style, the bell housing and front pump are bolted together, and the other style is the front pump and bell housing are bolted separately. But as you can see down in there, that is where this little bushing rides. So when you remove the bolts from our pump and pull this thing out of the case, the pump will ride on this bushing in there, and you can see it has these little tangs on it, and that is to help position it on this pump. Be sure when you put this back together, you use an assembly loop or something to hold this in place, because you do not want to force this on top of this guy without making sure those are in their guides, because you will cause a lot of premature wear and damage. And do the same with our little bushing here. It has little tangs on it as well that help it ride in these little notches. So you can use an assembly loop or the transmission fluid to help that in place. Make sure not to crush those as well, because it would really suck to get this thing together and then have to pull it right back out because those little guys aren't lined up. So, but anyways, like I said, I'm gonna get this cleaned up. I'll get you on the tripod, get this cleaned up, get everything bolted back together, get this transmission in the car so we can get it back on the ground, take it out for another test drive. All right, case is cleaned. All the gasket materials off the case, off the pump. I've got our new gasket sitting in place. And one thing I kind of want to, go over, and it is not a bad idea to do, is always double check gasket fitment, even if it is brand new. So what I ended up doing, first I'll show you the fitment so you can see that gasket fits fairly decent around. Lines up with our ports pretty dang good, actually a little bit better than the other gasket did, and that is because I used my scissors there and I cut this sliver off the gasket, and this actually came from around this bottom edge here all the way around. That way I can slide the gasket up just that much more to make sure I get a good seal around each one of these ports. Now I also took a taper bit as well, double checked all our holes, and as you can see, you get a really good close look, and they didn't take much. That one I centered up and used the bit to make sure that the bolt didn't push the gasket away. A little bit on that one because we cut that off to slide it up. That one was actually fairly decent, so was that one. That one was pretty close too, and you can see that one was just a little bit off. So definitely check gasket fitment prior to putting everything together, just in case you got to modify it just a little bit, and it's not uncommon, right? So also got our little bushing here in place. As you can see, I got blue grease holding it in place so I don't lose it when I flip it upside down. Also put a little bit on our thrust washer as well. So I'll get that guy installed in our case. Torque each one of the bolts down. I'll torque them down in 2 steps. I'll start with 20 and end with 40. Torque spec is between 28 and 38, I believe. It is in my book, but I believe it's between 28 and 40 foot-pounds is the torque spec of those bolts. I'm going to do it in 2 steps, 20, then 40. I'm also going to add a little bit of Loctite to the end of each one of those bolts. And that is because when I took this thing apart, they definitely did not feel like they were tight. Definitely not 20. They felt looser than 20 foot-pounds. So I'm definitely going to add Loctite, because that may have been the reason, or at least one of the reasons why it blew that gasket out to begin with, which also tells me it was probably going to happen regardless of what I did to that filter. So yeah, get this pump installed in the case, get the transmission back in the car, get some fluid in it, get it back on the ground. So the next I'll be back in a minute, and hopefully we'll be taking this thing on a test drive. Car's on the ground, transmission's all buttoned up, obviously. Got my belt on, she's running. Everything looks good so far. Another thing I did find, probably should have had a picture of that as well, but the fire actually went higher up on the firewall than I thought. It burned up the little plastic line you have for the oil pressure gauge, which is fine. I had one because I planned on changing it out to the brass one or the copper line anyways. So that pretty much just forced me to change it out. Got Seth with us. He's gonna do some recording. We're gonna take it up around the block, see how it does. And then I'm gonna play around with it a little bit. But first I wanna see how it shifts. So hand you over to Seth. He's gonna get some shots around. And hopefully we don't blow this thing up again, so. You ready, bud?
Yeah.
Gotta make sure it's not gonna blow up anywhere else, but here. We are back in the shop, and as you guys can tell, this thing is doing actually pretty good. Did a couple of trans brake launches for you. Brought it up on the two-step. I did set the two-step to 2500. Wasn't really happy with 1900. It kept wanting to pop my little plug off the back of the throttle body, so I just went ahead and turned it up. Seems to be much happier with that, like it's not loading it up. Car builds about 2 pounds of boost. I don't have the air compressor on, so that's all it's building as of right now at 2500 on the trans brake. Transmission seems to be doing really good. It's shifting firmly, no real flaring in the shifts, which was a problem before I made that little standoff to accept a factory style filter. So I'm extremely happy with that. I am happy that all I managed to do when driving it was just blow out the gasket. I did get a little mad at the car when I did that. I tried moving it once, but not very long. So gasket worked out really well. I'll put a link to Dynamic Racing Transmissions in the description. So if you guys have a C4 out there and you need to find something that's a little bit thicker than factory and coated to help it stay in place better than a factory gasket, those guys are cool. I think it's just twice as thick, and you can tell the difference if you put it side by side. Very durable. Seems very durable. Like I said, I just punished this car a little bit. The real test will be get it out in the car, actually get it on the track, and really do some hammering on it. But for right now, that is all I have time for. Another thing I want to bring up, by the time you guys see this video, I will have been at work for almost a month. And it'll probably be another week before I get back home. And hopefully, if everything works out, I want to put this car on the track and beat up on it some more, just to see if we can improve my time. My best is 11.8 in this car, and I'm pretty sure we got a lot more in it, especially with the new gears, manual, the trans brake, the manual valve body. Done a lot to this thing. My goal with it is to get it in the 10s, anywhere in the 10s. Maybe it's a 10.99, I don't care. But that is my goal. So anyways, like I said, by the time you guys see this video, I'll have it probably another week or so before I get home. So I'm trying my best, posting shorts, all that neat stuff. But anyways, I'm going to end this video right here. Kind of clean my mess up, get things scooted around. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you guys for hanging out. Comments down below, definitely welcome. Questions, anything at all. Share this with your friends. Again, you guys, hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one.